Hi, and welcome to this episode of the podcast Abilene People here on BigCountryHomepage.com and KTAB Plus on your streaming TV. It's an unusual episode for lots of different reasons. One, you're going to see as our guests are seated, there's three, and I will explain why that is, and you'll see the shots a little different to accommodate all three guests. But nevertheless, the podcast isn't meant to be a highly produced thing. It's meant to have interesting conversations with interesting people. And today, we certainly have three interesting guests, but our subject matter is very interesting because these three wonderful ladies are going to talk about their dear friend, Billye Proctor Shaw, who recently passed away. So we are doing a tribute podcast and welcome you three ladies. Myra Deen, how are you?
I'm going still on my feet.
I'm going to skip Donna Albus and come back to her. Sharon Riley, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
And Donna Albus, how are you?
I am peachy.
It's the first time you've ever been skipped, so I thought I'd throw it at you. Okay, so we are here to talk about your friend Billye Proctor Shaw, who was self-described as the Queen of Volunteers. That was not something I was familiar with until our own Erica Garner recently wrote about it in Big Country Homepage. But maybe that was a term you guys had heard her use. I want to talk about that a little bit because that certainly was a huge part of her legacy in life. And if I spent we try to get somewhere around 30 minutes in these conversations. It can go longer, it can go shorter, but it would take 30 minutes or more to just talk about all of her civic engagements. Oh, my word.
Yeah.
Is there a more engaged, involved person ever than Billye Proctor Shaw? What do you think?
I don't
Not
know
in
any.
this town.
No.
Incredible. So what I thought I would do to kind of, you know how in football they kick off, and then the smart guys run off the field, That's what we're going to do today.
All right.
I'm going to kick off, and then I'm going to get out of y'all's way. So she was formerly on the Abilene City Council, Taylor County Tax Appraisal District, statewide Texas Commission on the Arts, Leadership Texas Historical Foundation, and so many nonprofit boards. And these are, I'm sure she was on other nonprofits involved in philanthropically and as a volunteer. These were just boards she was on. It's not even all of them. United Way, West Texas Rehab Center, Day Nursery of Abilene, Western Heritage Classic, the community, which is coming up soon, obviously, the Community Foundation, Junior League of Abilene, Abilene Intercollegiate School of Nursing, the Foundation Board for St. Paul United Methodist Church. Wow. Founding board member, Frontier Texas, and Cancer Services Network, which she was instrumental in starting after her second husband had passed of cancer. And how many awards? Outstanding Citizen of the Year. Are we getting tired yet? It just goes on and on. Pathfinder by the YWCA, Distinguished Woman of Texas by Leadership Texas Alumni Association, Distinguished Abilenian of the Year by the Abilene Board of Realtors, Outstanding Contributor to the Arts by the Abilene Arts Council, recipient of the United Way Volunteer Service Award. Wow.
Time for us to leave now.
Incredible. I mean, truly incredible.
Try being her friend and trying to keep up with her.
So there we go. How did you keep up with her? And how did you know her? And which of you three had known her longest, or was it about the same? Sharon?
Probably Sharon.
Probably Sharon.
Well, I got to know Billye in the early 80s, right about 1980, I guess. We were invited to HL's 50th birthday party. They had Ray Price. It was out at their ranch west of town. And we clicked right away. She was just my soul sister in so many ways. We travel a lot together. So the stories about Billye, I could go on and on, but I'll let the others start too. But when we're ready for some personal stories, I'll add them.
Now, there's some of these stories, like, is it what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and what happens out at that ranch?
I've got pictures of Vegas. Not the last trip that we made together, but Billye, VNA, and I went to Vegas, and this was in 2002, I guess, for a weekend, and we had our pictures made with standing behind those it was kind of an AI thing before AI. I don't know if they were doing AI, but anyway, the three girls that were the angel, we were
Showgirls.
No, not showgirls. They were on TV. Those three. Anyway,
Charlie's Angels.
Charlie's Angels. We were all Charlie's Angels. Yeah, and but so Billye's was. I'll have to show you afterwards her picture.
So did they get mixed up? Who are the angels?
Well, my husband has my picture up still.
Lots of fun.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows it. Yeah.
So, and how long had y'all known Billye? A long time, I'm sure, right, Donna?
I came to Abilene in 1968. I was 24 and had 2 toddlers. And there was this group of women, Billye Proctor Shaw, Diane Graves Owen, and Peggy Beckham were part of it. And I was just in awe of these women. Here's this little country girl coming to the big city of Abilene, and these women that just ruled. Anyway, finally, the city come around to recognizing it. Billye was the 3rd woman to be recognized as a citizen of Abilene, the outstanding citizen. Then the next year, Peggy Beckham was recognized. And then in 96, Diane Graves Owen was recognized as the Citizen of the Year. So it took that long before Abilene really took note that women were pretty important.
Well, and you and I have had this conversation, and
Right.
I know Myra and I have had this conversation that women do the work in Abilene. Women make Abilene run, and we all know it, and sometimes we need to say it a little more often than we otherwise do. But Billye Proctor Shaw was one of the women that made it run. The 3
Right.
you mentioned, along with all 3 of you, certainly. But come on.
We were just kids back then.
Yeah, we were inspired by them.
So anyway, I told her the last time I visited with her that how she had inspired me, what an inspiration she was. And so if I messed up, it was probably her fault. And she immediately said, I did good. So I took that as a really nice compliment. But I knew who she was, but I didn't really get to know her until she got involved with Western Heritage. And she would have an after party at her house at the Sunday after Western Heritage closed, and would invite, her closest 150 friends, and I got to be a part of that.
Lots of fun. Myra, when did you get to know her?
Well, I guess I met her before any one of these 2 because I met her when I was selling business equipment and she had opened a real estate company, and I went to call on her. And
What was your first impression?
oh my gosh, well, somebody has referred to her as a force of nature. And once you met Billye, you knew Billye. I mean, we weren't friends. We didn't become friends till later after Sharon and her became friends. And then I don't even know exactly. It's like once I met her, it was just Billye was somebody you knew. And I thought she was amazing. She was just amazing. I was in awe of her.
Yeah, well, I only met her because you had introduced me at an event, and I thought, oh my goodness, this woman really is everything that, she's legendary. She's, I don't know, she just struck you that way. She struck me that way.
Somebody asked me, we were talking about Billye, and I said, I just couldn't believe God put me in her orbit. I wasn't one of her dearest friends or closest friends, but I was a friend. And at some point in our relationship, she said she loved me, and I certainly loved her. And so, but I think she loved almost everybody in Abilene, so I'm not sure that's quite what I think it is. But anyway, I was lucky enough to be in her orbit and get to spend time with her. And then we haven't talked about the fact that Sharon, Donna, me, and Billye started an investment club in 1996. And we called it the Fund Club, F-U-N.
Emphasis on the fun.
Parentheses D. We were going to, and it was Sharon's idea, and she said, we're going to have fun and learn something about investing. And if we make enough money, we'll go on a cruise. So I don't know how many.
Haven't done that yet, but it's
But
still
we
in
went
the
to
plan.
Fredericksburg. We finally went to Fredericksburg.
For a weekend.
That's pretty good.
Downplay it.
Yeah,
It was
that's
for a
pretty
weekend.
good.
Well, now, seriously, it wasn't because we didn't make money, because we've done very well for a bunch that didn't know what they were doing.
Was Billye Proctor Shaw a part of the investment club? Or
Yes,
was
oh
she-
yeah. She helped. We all
Us
started.
three plus Billye and one or two, a couple.
And it
of
still goes on?
others. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. She was our legacy member. When she got too ill to actually participate, we made her a legacy member. She'll always be part of our fund club.
So, the easy question is, what's your favorite memory? And I want to ask that question because that's an important question. But I want to say something that I read recently this week, thinking about her. She said one time that it was not uncommon when she was becoming so involved in the life of the city of Abilene for her to be the only woman in the room. And I think she was asked, what did she think? And I'm sure you guys can relate to that.
We've all
Did
experienced
you
that
hear what
one.
I just said? Did you hear what I said? You guys can relate to that, but we live in this world. And I think it's okay for me to say this as a man, where men routinely overlook women. We, you three, are not to be overlooked, and she was not to be overlooked. Are those the kind of conversations you ever had, or was it just keep your eyes straight ahead and keep your head down and
Billy
do it,
I-
whatever it took?
Billy told me her history. If you know her history, she grew up in Houston, and her mother was a school teacher, and they didn't have a lot of money. But back then, if you made really, really good grades, you could go to Rice University for free. So she graduated from high school at 16 and went to Rice, which she graduated magna cum laude. Now, her husband, the first husband, CA, was at Rice too. And this is just a funny story about CA. He was the quarterback of the Rice football team at the time. And there's an old story about the A&M football player the Rice football player that was on the sideline.
Yes.
That her husband was the quarterback of that team, and their best friend was the Rice player that tackled at A&M.
Wow. Wow. I
Billy
had
told
no
me-
idea.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny story. But she graduated magna cum laude from Rice at 18, and they married at 18. They both married at 18. And
Yeah, I saw that and didn't really wrap my mind around how that was possible to go to college at 16 and then marry at 18.
they were down to business. Now,
Yeah,
she-
they were.
she-
Yeah. But that was 1950-ish. I don't know what year they got
53,
married.
I think 54, somewhere in there.
And coming right on the heels of the Depression, it was not uncommon at all for everybody to
The
get out of
war. It's right
business,
after the
you know?
war,
Yeah,
you know,
right after
so.
the war. So,
No, it would have been in the 50s.
Yeah, early
Yeah.
50s, I
Yeah,
said.
because
Yeah.
I graduated in
So-
62.
favorite memories. Let's just start with you, Myra, and just go down and share. And you can pass and come back if you want.
Yeah, pass and come back because
All right, Donna.
I got to.
She and I went to Austin to see Cher, which was to be her final
Wow.
tour. And I carried 2 binoculars because I don't like to share my binoculars. When you get them set to your eyes, you don't want to pass them to somebody else to skew that up. And we immediately made friends with 2 guys that sat next to us, and Billy kept giving them her binoculars. So then I had to share my binoculars with Billy.
Well, that's
Yeah.
really terrible.
Yeah, it was just a terrible imposition. Anyway, we spent the night in Austin and just had one whale of a time.
So I've got
And
to ask,
so-
how was Cher? That had to be a great concert.
Oh, man, what did she put on a show?
Yeah.
I mean, costume changes and belted out songs. It was a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, that's like hanging out with Myra and Sharon for a
Well,
weekend. You
yeah.
know? Costume
Hey,
changes.
Have you
what a
ever heard
show.
them sing? Woo!
Favorite memory?
Oh, there's just so many. We were traveling.
Now, don't go back to the ranch.
We were traveling buddies, and we were on many wonderful trips, but I guess we went the year after the 9/11. We went to New York together, and I was newly single. She was too. HL had just died, and so we got to travel around, and we got to meet the firefighters that were selling calendars. But that whole trip, and got to see the church and all the scars. It just meant a lot to us to see that together. And it's just one of the trips. There's so many wonderful memories though with her that HL got us first class tickets. This has been that whole life to go to Europe together. And so all the two couples of us went to Europe. That's another wonderful memory where he had a best friend who could get us all first-class tickets for free to go to Europe. So we spent 3 weeks in Europe, and she planned the whole thing. She was meticulous. And then when we got home, she made a notebook with the pictures and all our tickets and everything. So I've got this wonderful notebook that Billye did of our trip to Europe. And that's just the way Billye was. She was so generous in what she did.
Mm. Yeah, go ahead.
She was part of Leadership Texas, and they came to Abilene 5 times. The last time she was ill and didn't get to participate. But every time they came to town, she would open up her home to 150, 200 women to just have them have the Abilene experience. And just like she did after Western Heritage, she was always having Christmas parties or some kind of event where people were invited to get to experience her life.
Myra, what do you think? Any of that jog your favorite memory?
Yeah. I didn't travel with Billye, or, our lives just didn't intersect that way. But, of course, we were in the investment club, so I saw her every month. And but 2 memories, and one of them was our friend Vianney's parents had a birthday party for her in Houston, and Billye and I and some other gals, we all flew down to Houston, and so I sat with Billye, and she started talking about her life. Most of the time when I was with Billye, there were a whole bunch of people around, and I think that's why I probably never had much time to visit with her individually. But on that trip, she told me so much about her and her life. And when she told you her life story, then you really knew Billye. And that's, I guess, I don't know how to explain it, but she was just an inspiration to me. But the one that I probably is my favorite memory is after she was pretty ill. I went over to see her at her house. She was just taking visitors a little bit at a time, and just a few people. And so I was lucky enough I got to go over, and I ended up staying with her for 2 hours. And she just talked and talked and talked and talked. We shared memories of all the things over the years. So many I'd forgotten that she remembered, and things that I remembered she'd forgotten, and just being able, knowing we probably wouldn't have her much longer, to get 2 hours with time with Billye and just to sit there and go, I can't believe I'm in her orbit, and then I'm sitting here listening to her, because her life, it's just what we're all saying.
But she never probably thought of herself as somebody that had an orbit and others just got to be in it. She was just I talked to her all of 3 times in my life, but she was just always just a very genuine person who happened to be the most connected person in town.
Organized.
A straight shooter.
She was very organized.
Plain talker.
And she was determined, and when she had a job, she just did it.
Yeah, I wonder where that sense of organization you're talking about came from.
I think it's born in you. I think it's born in you. I think she had it in spades, and she just got to prioritize in her mind, and whether she was giving a party or whether she was running something for some nonprofit or whatever in town she was doing, she just had it all prioritized, and she had jobs, and she told everybody what to do. She was the big general.
You never wondered what she thought, because she told you.
She'd tell you.
Yeah. Whether it's good or bad, I was whining one day about my job, and she said, sounds to me like you just need to go get another job. No sympathy there.
That's pretty clear.
Yep.
How long was she sick? And
She had a stroke 6 years ago.
And at what point did her close friends realize, this is going to be tough?
For her 85th birthday, we decided that we needed to get a card for every year. And so we put out a plea, would you please send in birthday cards? And at 153, we quit counting.
Wow.
And put them in a blue box. Because I was told by the executive director for Keep Texas Beautiful, you needed a blue file. And I'm like, a blue file? And yes, you put all these letters that people send you of, telling you how great you are in your blue file. And when you have the blues, you pull it out and you read them.
Nice. I like it.
So that's why we gave Billye the blue box, so
Love
that
it.
she could see what she had meant to us, and even put that inscription in the lid that what you've given to Abilene, we want to give back in part to you. And then it was 2 years later when we organized the car rally, when she wasn't
Drive-through
able
birthday
to
party.
able to go out, and so the cars were decorated in all different fashions, and they drove by and they kept coming and coming and coming. So we tried to let her know how much we loved her and appreciated her.
I have a story about the drive-through birthday party. Billye was good friends with the singer-songwriter Carol Hall, and Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, Carol Hall.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
friends. And Carol Hall has a birthday song that's hysterical called This Is My Birthday. And I had it cranked up so loud, I probably need hearing aids now in my car. So when we went by, and Billye got such a kick out of it, because of course she immediately knew it was Carol Hall. And she got such a kick out of it, they called me and said, "Can you send us that? How did you do that?" I said, "It was in my phone and I just played it through the car." But I had it. I'm sure everybody in her neighborhood appreciated that song. But Billye got such a kick out of that. And so that was a great memory for me. I was just going, man, we loved her.
Tell us about another one of your trips.
Yeah.
Or memories.
Oh, well, I guess our birthday parties, we always had birthday parties together, and I guess I can't. It's really hard for me to go back and think about Billye. We went to New York City, I guess, after I married Tom. We went back to New York City again. I guess that was a trip. Tom had never been to New York, and so we did all the touristy things, And Billye and I had been to New York several times. Our first time that Billye and I went to New York City was in the '80s, and there were 6 of us: Diane and Owen Stye and Linda was there, and then her daughter-in-law, Lance's first wife, and me, and then we stayed at the Waldorf Astoria, there, and so we thought we got to eat at the Russian Tea Room. I learned a lot. Now, honestly, growing up in Eastland, Texas, I have never been sophisticated, never have been, and I'm still not. But being around Billye and Diane. We ate at the Russian Tea Room. I had caviar for the very first time and had tea, and so that's a great memory. But Billye was always got to go to the Suzanne's hat shop. I was talking to Dan yesterday. She had one of her Suzanne's hats on, and that Diane's hat shop is about 8 foot wide, and it's there on one of the Madison Avenue, I guess, and that's where Barbara Bush always bought her hats.
Oh.
So Diane and Billye took me to Suzanne's, and of course I had to buy a hat. I can't find it now. I've moved, but anyway, she had so many hats, so many wonderful hats. Billye did, and Diane. That it's like I had to be a big girl with them. Now I'm 12 years younger. I'm 79. Billye was 91, and so she was always like a big sister to me. That's the way I felt. Diane's not as old as Billye. She's in the middle somewhere in there. But anyway, so those big girls, traveling with Billye, even though she didn't grow up very wealthy, she grew up very well. And she knew exactly what to do, when and where. And it was a good learning experience for me just to be around her.
Well, you're like that guy that pulled up to the gas station back in the days when they came out to put gas in your car, and they said, "You want regular or ethyl?" And he said, "Well, ethyl. I've never had ethyl. My truck's always regular, Sometimes we have friends that run on ethyl,
Yeah, that's it.
So, as we kind of turn toward thinking about, when somebody lives 91 years, that's a wonderful life. And yet, isn't it kind of interesting to think about how still you would have loved more time with her? And I think that's a beautiful tribute to life too. You know, that when somebody lives to be a fairly old person and we still say they died too young, and there's got to be, a mix of melancholy and sadness in all of the wonderful, fun stories too. And I turned 63 this year. You get north of 50 and 60, and you start thinking about your own mortality. But if nothing else, what we've learned from somebody like Billye Proctor Shaw is live.
And she did love to live, and she loved to share her joy about everything she did with everybody else. And I think this past 6 years have been the hardest because that stroke left her wheelchair bound, and so that kind of restricted her movement, and that was really hard on her. But she was always upbeat with me and always planning on our next trip. I mean, she loved to talk, well, where are we going to go to next? And even though I knew that we would not be going on another trip, we always talked about where we would like to go next, because she had that in her mind that we would be traveling again together. And but at these last couple, when she broke her arm a month or so back, or a couple of months ago, that was when she really was in so much pain and everything. So at this point, I was saying, Billy, you've lived such a great life. Thank you for your life.
Right. I had one of the councilmen call me and offer his condolences because he knew what I thought of Billy. And he said, my dream is that when I pass on, that someone will speak as highly of me as you've always spoke of Billy. And I was like, I didn't realize I talked about her that much, but I guess I did, for him to make that comment. And she just touched so many people with her. She's like the Velveteen Rabbit. She was real.
And she was a great grandmother. I've got to say that too. She had 4 children, and she had some living of her granddaughters. She had 2 granddaughters that are my granddaughter's age. And so we would have parties for the girls. I've got a great picture of her dressed up as a witch, and I'm a witch and she's a witch, and we're out in front of the cauldron, and our girls, my Alexandra and Samantha and Cannon and Caroline, and I guess the girls were ranged in an age from about 5 to 9, some were 10, somewhere in there. But she was a witch. Now, she wasn't one of these pretty witches, where a lot of people, when they dress up witch, they're real pretty. No. She had the black teeth. I've got a picture of her. It's great. She loved to dress up. She was a great comedian, and she was an entertainer.
That's fun.
There's another thing that I wanted to say about Billy. The other thing I think about Billy was, we're all talking about what a life and all of her accomplishments and all that. But in all the time I knew Billy, it didn't matter who you were or what your station in life was. Billy treated everybody the same. I think you just said it. She was real. And it wasn't ever like, she also bossed everybody around just the same. The
big general.
Yeah, she was the big general. Sharon was the little general, but she was the big general. But if she bossed you around, it wasn't because she thought you were less than. It was like, I don't care who you are. You should have heard some of the stories of who she bossed around in this town. And somebody said she was mean, but they lovingly. But you just, if Billy told you, you didn't question it. You just did it.
It needed to be done.
But she was so good to. I never saw her not be good to somebody. She could be mad at you. She got mad at me once. Woo! But she also forgave. But she was just. She was real. That's the thing I think that I really impressed me the most, because as much as I was around her, she never acted like she was some big shot. She was Billy.
it's hard to wrap up a conversation like this. But I do want to revisit the idea of that trip, because she's gone on one now. And one day we all get to go, and she's shown us the way.
She has great faith. She had great faith.
But I want to give you all a chance, and again, it's kind of, it's probably impossible, but just maybe in a sentence, summarize your thoughts about her. And I'll let you think on that. That's a tall order. I saw where she had a private service, and I think y'all said it was yesterday. And I think Felicia Hopkins officiated. And there's few people in the world I would trust more or love to hear more from Felicia.
Viola Foreman opened it with the Lord's Prayer and ended it with Amazing Grace.
And I wasn't there. I'm glad you were, because you can affirm this, but I'm sure that there were lots of sentences said about her, but about her faith and about our hope, that transcends, 6 years of stroke or wheelchair bound, takes us back to that idea of going on a trip, So there's more to life. We're all, 4 of us plus Uday over there running the switcherboard, that we're all gonna have opportunities every day to make our choices and live our lives. And you 3 ladies have lived exemplary lives. I've known Myra better than any of the 3, but I'll tell you, all 3 of you have a legacy like that. You do. People talk about you 3 ladies the way that y'all have talked about Billye Proctor Shaw. And she would want me to say that, I'm sure. I'm sure she would. That's really it, isn't it? That we all continue, that we look for the good in a world that seems so dang focused on snippets of bad, in a social media world where you find somebody that really gets it and lives life. Man, hold on to them. Okay, give y'all your chance. Y'all will end it better than I can. Myra, a sentence about her?
I think Billye just embodied everything that I would want to be. It's pretty hard for anybody to get where she got, but just like I said, probably being in her orbit and watching her, she taught you a lot without saying a word, just watching how she lived. She was beautiful, kind, smart, generous, genuine, plain spoken. I just everything I admire in any person, but especially in a woman. And we've had 6 years to kind of get used to the idea of her not being around. But I'll never remember Billye in the wheelchair. I'll remember the Billye that I just admired. She was a great gal.
Donna?
Dynamic, a straight shooter. She led by example and love. Beautiful.
Well, they've really said it all. But for Billye, for me, it was kind of I never had a sister, and she was sort of like a big sister to me, and I feel that loss, and I felt that loss coming on for the past 6 years. But I just know that she knows that she's looking down on us now, and I know that she's at peace and she's not in pain, and I am thankful for her faith, and I'm thankful for our faith that we know that.
Thank you so much for coming into the podcast today. What a treat. And I know a whole lot of people are going to watch this and be thankful that you came into the podcast today, because, it's a tonic for us when we have the opportunity to hear people reminisce about somebody that we've respected, or in so many cases, people that have known her well loved and who didn't have a chance to go to the service or haven't had a chance to really wrap their minds and hearts around it. Y'all have done such a great job for us. We're going to actually keep the conversation going for just a minute, and I'll explain why after we give a formal sign off. So these ladies have been wonderful. A lot of fun, a little bit of tears, lots of laughter, and that's exactly as we all would want it to be when somebody reminisces us when it's our turn. Thank you for joining us here on Abilene People. And every single time, I always shake the guest's hand. And I thought, well, I can't reach all the way across the table. Well, heck, I can. Sharon, thank you for coming. Donna Albus,
Thank
come
you.
on. Thank you so much. Myra Deen, thank you so much.
Thanks
for
for this
doing this.
opportunity.
Yes.
And I want to thank you for being here. And I want to thank Uday Singh, our ace producer over there on the switcher board. And you'll see, because it'll be posted later, but we're going to put together a compilation of after the show conversations, and we'll have one of those and keep going here in a second. But join us again next time here on bigcountryhomepage.com and the KTAB Plus streaming app, where we always have the most interesting people here on Abilene People. I'm your host, Danny Sims. Thanks, and we will see you next time.